You're on Artist on Record, your ultimate intimate conversation with your favorite artists. And if it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. And of course, leave us a thumbs up and put your comments down below. Always love to hear your feedback. But tonight we have from the Wrecking Crew, this man has played with the Monkees, Boz Scaggs, Seals Crofts, Lionel Richie, Gladys Knight, Marvin Gaye, the Partridge Family, Whitney Houston. Oh my God, the list goes on and on. Ricky Nelson. Well, anyway, he's here to tell us some stories. And you're going to like this one. This man also knocked the Beatles off the #1 chart. Wait till you hear that. Anyway, put your hands together for the legendary Mr. Louie Shelton. It's all starting now. Don't touch that dial.
And Hal and Don were very close. We did all of the Nancy Sinatra stuff together too. But me and Hal and Joe Osborne did most of the Carpenter stuff.
Did you?
And, yeah. We did Close to You.
Close to you.
And Top of the World. And We've Only Just Begun. We did those.
Only just begun.
But, here's an interesting story. When I first got to LA, before I was doing sessions, really, I mean, I hadn't gotten into that clique yet. Somehow, Glenn Campbell introduced me to Joe Osborne at a Ricky Nelson session. And me and Joe, that's where we became buddies. Well, he knew Richard and Karen before they were anybody. And we went into Joe's garage and did their demos that got them their deal at A&M Records. So that's how far back I go with those guys.
Wow.
Yeah. But so many people that I recorded with are that we recorded with. This was their first thing, and nobody knew them, and nobody knew they would be a hit or not, I toured with Mama Cass and David Crosby years before they were anybody. But someone like the Jackson 5 or David Cassidy with the Partridge Family, when we're in there doing their sessions, we didn't know if it would be a hit or not, because we were doing that with other people as well, and it wasn't always hits.
And right in the middle of a good dream. First time I had to audition, I sat down and I picked up my guitar and I started riffing. And they went, actually, we won't be asking you to play guitar. We have Larry Carlton and Louie Shelton. Oh, okay. And Hal Blaine will be playing drums, and Joe Osborne and Max Bennett will be playing bass, and Larry Knechtel and Mike Melvoin will be playing keyboards. And I went, oh, I guess I won't be playing anything.
I had a thing show up on my Facebook page yesterday. Wrecking Crew always, whenever it's the birthday of someone that we've worked with as the Wrecking Crew, I say Hal Blaine, Joe Osborne, Tommy Tedesco, David Cassidy, the producer, and myself, and they're all gone except me.
Wow,
every one of them, every single one of them, including the producer.
Crazy.
Mike Melvoin was the keyboard player I was trying to think of.
Wow.
But yeah, there's very few of us left. Me and Don Peake's still around. We did a thing in over in the Valley while I was there. We did a Wrecking Crew show. Just did a guest spot. I did I Want You Back, the Jackson 5 tune with them. Yeah.
It's so cool. It's the Jackson 5. That lick. I mean, can you tell me about that session? Just that whole, it's magical.
Yeah. Our very first, as far as I can remember, our very first session with them, and we hadn't seen them other than Diana Ross had brought them in to us one day and said, we're going to make stars out of these guys. Then they were gone and we didn't see them. Next thing I know, we're in the studio with with the two writers and the producer and us 4 or 5 musicians. And the first tune we're working up is I Want You Back. And there's no chart for that. I think we had a publishing sheet with the lyrics on it or something like that. Maybe the chord changes. So all of that intricate work, we built that from the ground up. They started with the bass part, that don't, don't. And then they said, they finally got that all worked out. And they said, okay, well now, Don, double that part, you know? And so then they got the boom, da 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 da. And then I just started playing that jing, jing. Not as a joke, but just fooling around, because there was no rhythm to that thing. It was starting and stopping. And the producer looked over and said, yeah, what are you playing there? I said, oh, just jing, jing, jing. That's good. That kind of glues the thing together. And so as intricate as that track is, we built it from nothing to one of the greatest pop songs ever. You know, and it just so happened that they called me down to do some additional guitar parts on the evening after we cut that. And when I went in, Michael Jackson was doing his vocal. He was the only one there. None of the other Jackson 5 was there. Just Michael out there, 11 years old, you know, with the microphone. And he was ripping that vocal, man. And I'm telling you, I'd never seen anything like it. And I'm so fortunate to be able to witness that, you know, his very first record, and as great as it was. And that record still, I talk about a record that holds up today, you know, wherever you're at and you hear that, you're going to start patting your foot, you know, because that's just great, great record.
100%. Amazing. And what you're playing on it, it's keeping the time when you got the bass line moving, it's over there messing around.
Yeah. It was just a bit of luck, you know. It just kind of fell together, you know. But it had a good foundation to play to, and
it was their first single, I believe, right? It was.
Yeah, it had to be their first single.
It was,
and it was the first thing we recorded. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, what history, and seeing this little 11-year-old, where's that even come from?
Yeah, I mean, I was amazed. I went home and told my wife, I just saw the most amazing thing, because I had no idea that he was that good. I'd never heard him sing. No one had. And
you knew right away. This
yeah.
Take it over.
And that was the first time I'd actually heard the song. We did the track without knowing what was going to be sang over the top of it. So when I heard now I get it, you know. Fantastic.
Was the father there, Joe Jackson, in the studio?
Oh no, we never saw him.
Never seen him.
I doubt if they let him in the studio.
Really? So the boys, the boys, meaning Jackson, the kids, the group, they had everything together. They were ready. They were prepared in there pretty much with their.
Well, I would say that the producers and writers worked with them as hard as they did with us musicians, and because those parts don't just fall together. They've really got to be inspired and worked on and made to fit, you know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not something that some guys could just walk in and start trying stuff. The writers and producer were figuring all of that out, and the guys did a very good job of learning it. But yeah, they had probably never heard the song either.
Yeah,
you know, before they came in.
So was that around the time when Motown left Detroit and went to Hollywood around that
Yeah,
period?
it was exactly that time because they were in Hollywood and they didn't bring out any of their musicians to LA.
James Jamerson, all those cats were just in Detroit
Yeah.
still, huh?
Mhm.
Oh,
One time when we did the Marvin Gaye album, he brought Jamie Jamerson out, and I got to sit next to him and play, which
really?
was for
Got it.
me. I mean, we had played the Four Top stuff in the clubs and admired that bass line stuff for all those years, and here I am sitting next to the guy that played it,
Oh,
But
man,
that's the only time I ever saw him. I don't
that
know.
one time.
Yeah, that one time in that Marvin Gaye session. I don't
How
know why they wouldn't have brought him out there, Motown, uh, or any of those guys, because they had, they'd made so many great records together. But
maybe it was a business decision. They didn't want to pay to fly them out. Hotel. We'll get local guys out here to play. Who knows?
well, yeah, yeah. But Motown had so much money that it didn't seem like that would have been an issue. But
Yeah.
they were able to put some guys together, and probably it was a newer sound for Motown with the Jackson 5, ABC and all of that. It was first time I used a fuzz tone on a record was for that do 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 do. I just had a cheap fuzz tone on the floor that I clicked on for that. So yeah, it was kind of a new sound.
So for that fuzz tone, when you were doing it, did the producers say, "Hey," or you were just messing around with that? And they
No,
go,
I
"Hey,"
did it. No, they
just did it?
didn't say do that. They didn't even know what it was, or they'd never heard of a fuzz tone. I just did it out of my crazy way of thinking.
It's great. Who turned you on to the fuzz? What influenced you to bring it down to the session?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. My first connection with a fuzz tone were years before. I was in Santa Fe, and Gibson came out with the first fuzz tone that I ever saw, and I bought it and brought it into this club that we were playing jazz standards, and I bought it because it said this makes your guitar sound like a sax. So I plugged it in. It didn't sound like a sax to me. It sounded like I just broken my speaker, So I never used that one. And then later on, I don't know, maybe I got it because I was listening to Jeff Beck on that song where he used a fuzz tone or something. And so I had it there, but anything that we didn't have foot pedals in those days, but every time something new would come out, I'd get it, I had one of the first wah-wah pedals and one of the first choruses and, delays, all that. I've got 100 of them over there on the shelf now, but I don't use many of them. I probably have the smallest pedal board in history.
Really? What was your setup for like ABC for that? You had, was it a simple setup, a little amp that you had?
Yeah, and that fuzz tone.
That was it.
That was it. I was plugged into the fuzz tone, and I think I even bypassed the amp and went from a fuzz tone into a direct box, because Motown used to have us do that a lot. Because the amps were bleeding into the drum microphones and like the piano mics, they would have us unplug and plug into a direct box, which we all hated. It sounded terrible to us.
The direct box, huh?
Yeah, but it sounded okay on the records, they made it work. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. ABC, you know what you did in music history with that little fuzz box? You know what you did? You knocked the Beatles off the charts with Jackson 5 ABC. That was Louie Shelton. And if you want to catch more of this episode unedited, uncut, check out All Access Backstage Pass in Patreon. Links are down below. Also, make sure you click on the box right up here for something really good that's going to pop up. Until then, everybody, it's only rock and roll, and we like it. And remember, who loves you, baby? We do. Now, get out of here, you crazy kids.